Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, flights and community. This is Fighter Strike 95, and today we're here with another Firefight, with another Friday stream of 50 states and 50 streams. And today we're here in beautiful Maine here today. We're right outside of Portland, Maine here today at Portland Jetport. I hope you're all doing well here today. So I hope you're all having a good time here. So we're actually going to do some flying here in Maine. So our today's flight plan is only going to be 2 legs for this flight plan, but we will be exploring much of Maine here today. So yes, it's the 23rd state of the Union of Maine, and I've been to Maine myself this past year, last year visiting Bar Harbor, and I'll be back this year visiting Portland. Should be interesting to check out. So before we get started, I do want to say hello to everyone in chat. We have Super Typhon, good to see you. He's battling a head cold. That's not good. I hope you'll feel better soon. And hello to all the rest of the lurkers. Good to have you too. So yes, I did manage to get through the storms and stuff just fine. So only just minor power outage, but not just only minor internet outage, but that's about it. So let's go over our flight plan for this morning's stream for this afternoon. We'll start here at Portland Jetport, just outside of downtown Portland, Maine. Then from there, we'll fly around the Maine coastline. We'll head to West Bath, and then we're going to head up north to the state capital here in Augusta. Then from Augusta, we'll head to the coastline here, and we'll fly our way over Acadia National Park. Now, we will be heading back to Acadia for our National Park series more in depth, but we'll fly over Acadia. Then, of course, we'll fly over to the historic community of Bar Harbor, Maine, which I've been to myself. And we'll make our first stop here at Hancock County Airport, Bravo Hotel Bravo. Then from there, we'll continue on north. We'll head over to the city of Bangor. Then we'll head up over here to the Appalachian Mountain Club Wilderness. And we'll fly over some of the natural lands. We'll also be paying a visit to Mount Caledon, which is the end of the Appalachian Trail. And we'll make a stop here at Millinocket Airport to wrap up the stream. So yeah, we only have 2 legs here today. We only got 2 legs here. Do plenty of fun. Yes, New Brunswick is right next door to Maine. That's absolutely correct. So the plane we'll flying today is a bit of a unique plane. This is my first time flying this in MSFS 2024, but this is the Pipistrel Virus SW121. Very interesting light sport aircraft. Part of the Pipistrel Virus planes, built by Pipistrel out of Slovenia, introduced in 1999 based on the Sinus. The Virus has produced a number of variants with different engines, wingspans, and undercarriages. About 1,000 have been built as of March 2019. This is a very popular aircraft for ultralights, home-built glider, or even light sport. And they're not, in fact, some interesting history about this was that Pipistrel Virus actually made his way to almost around the world. When the Slovenian pilot Maca Lenaric went around the world from Slovenia in the Virus SW914. He made it around the world from Slovenia. He even went up to Mount Everest, which was super cool. It's even used in military purposes. India is using it for their train aircraft. So very cool little plane. The S912 can go up to cruise speed of 147 knots, quite fast. But yeah, very versatile plane. Very versatile plane, and it's very capable. Gets overlooked sometimes. Always. So we're actually at Portland Jetport today. So if you guys ever been to Portland International Jetport, it is one of the main it's the busiest airport in Maine. It is by far the busiest airport in the state. As in 2018, they handled more than 2 million passengers. In 2024, it has a new record, 2.43 million people. It's benefited from low-cost carriers like Southwest Airlines and JetBlue, as well as its increased profitability as a tourist destination. So, pretty important stuff. Mainly flies to a lot of areas around the East Coast. Is from New York and Boston to Florida, destinations like Tampa, Fort Myers, Sarasota, and more. Yeah, Portland International Jetport, pretty here today. Yep, and she's on. So our first link's going to take us to Portland, Oregon. So we're going to be, thankfully, this is a pretty easy plane to kind of set up the autopilot. So for the first leg, we do have some pretty high elevations for second leg, but the first leg we're going to cruise mainly at 1,500 feet start before going up to 2. We're going to go ahead and head our way out. Pretty easy stuff to get on and going here. So the city we're going to be flying over this morning is going to be Portland, Maine, actually. Yes, do not confuse it for the one in Oregon. That is actually a much bigger city than this one. But Portland, Maine is actually Maine's biggest city. Its population is 16,408 people as of 2020. Its metro area is around 550,000 people. Historically tied to commercial shipping, marine economy, and land industry, Portland's economy relies on services, including tourism. Its port is actually the second largest seaport in New England, after Boston. Portland has been around since 1632, making it one of the oldest cities in Maine. And it was a pretty important area for the Royal Navy before the Revolution. But one of the big parts about but the big part about Portland, Maine is it's quite walkable for a city. You can walk around the area, especially learn about its maritime history. Portland's also rich in food culture, thanks to all the different restaurants and the quality of food, especially with juice bars, coffee shops, tea houses, and more, as well as for its seafood. And Portland, Maine is a very rich um, area for the foodies. They also have some minor league teams, most notably the Portland Sea Dogs of minor league baseball. Also, they also have a minor league team, the Maine Celtics, and the Maine Mariners minor league teams. They got a lot, and they're mainly for the Boston teams, of course. They also have several historic neighborhoods and stuff as well. Now, I will be visiting Portland, Maine, actually, during my trip. However, I will be visiting Portland, Maine later this year. So I'll be visiting Portland, so I'll be checking out some of the historic areas here in the port. So that would be pretty exciting. But our excursion won't be in downtown Portland. It's actually going to be our excursion is actually going to be at Kennebucket, which is actually just south of here. actually a bit south from Portland. It's a bit of a drive, but we're going to be visiting Kennebunkport. But we will see a little bit of downtown Portland. Oh yeah, here's one of the nice things I love about the virus. Look at the side visibility on this thing. Look at that. Look at the visibility from the side. Yeah, there's all downtown Portland. There's the old port area. Of course, you all know Maine is got tons of lighthouses across the city. And of course, you can find all sorts of lighthouses. They're all over the Maine coast. It's like a beautiful day in Maine. So we're gonna head on this way for another 21 nautical miles. We're gonna continue on from there. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the U.S. state of Maine as we head our way up to Augusta. So the U.S. state of Maine, located here in the northeast section of New England. It is the northern eastmost state of the contiguous 48. It borders New Hampshire to the west, Gulf of Maine to the southeast, and the Canadian provinces of New Brunswick and Quebec to the northeast and northwest, as well as a maritime border with Nova Scotia. It is actually by far the largest state in New England by total area, nearly larger than the rest of New England combined. Though of the 50 states, it is the 12th smallest by land area, the 9th least populous, the 13th least densely populated state, and the most rural state in the country. Its capital is Augusta, most populous city is Portland. In fact, only around 1.4 million people live in Maine. And the territory has inhabited for indigenous populations for ages. Of course, Maine is well known. But the major part Maine is most known for is its jaggedy, rugged Atlantic Ocean and bayshore coastlines, mountains, heavily forested interior, and its cuisine, with low-brush blueberries and seafood, make it very well known here in Maine. And tourism's also been a big deal here in Maine over the last couple. Maine has been a pretty quiet state for the most part. There hasn't been too much history with Maine. But the history of Maine can go back to its indigenous peoples, mainly with the Algonquin-speaking Wabanaki people, including the Passamaquoddy, the Maliseet, Penobscot, Androscoggin, and Kennebec peoples. During the later King Philip's War, many of these people would merge into one form to become the Wabanaki Confederacy, and they aiding the Wampanoag of Massachusetts and the Mahican of New York. Afterwards, many of these people were driven to their territories, but most of their tribes continued unchanged until after the American Revolution. European contact in the Maine actually started back when the 1000 CE, when Vikings are believed to interact with the Penobscot people in Hancock County for trade. If this is actually true, it would make Maine the site of the earliest European discovery in the entire U.S. Yes, Maine, actually. Not Florida, not Virginia, not North Carolina, but possibly Maine. Because they actually had Viking settlements in Iceland and Greenland, and they actually first identified America and tried to settle in Newfoundland, but failed to establish permanent settlement. But yes. However, the first confirmed European settlement in modern-day Maine was actually in 1604 on St. Croix Island, led by French explorer Pierre Dugas Sieur de Mons. Party included that of Samuel de Champlain, and you guys all know about de Champlain, one of the major French explorers, and he named the entire area Acadia. including the portion that became known as Maine. And the first English settlement in here in Maine was the Plymouth when the Plymouth was established in 1607 by the Plymouth Company at the Popham Colony, which was actually the same year as Jamestown. However, those colonists did return back to Britain after just 14 months. The French established 2 Jesuit missions here, including most notably Mount Desert Island in 1613. In 1625, you have Fort Pentagon to protect Castine as well. Of course, the 1622 patent of the province of Maine was split into the province of New Hampshire by the British and New Somersetshire to the north. About due to colonies. And then the Massachusetts Bay Colony seized New Somersetshire and Lagonia by force in 1658. Of course, all the English settlements but in the Massachusetts Bay Colony and province of New York became the Dominion of New England in 1686, and all present-day Maine was unified as York County, Massachusetts in 1691. Of course, Spain was much brought over by both the French, English, and Allied natives during the 17th century, as the natives connected around against settlers and each other, and captives or ransomed, or in some cases kidnapped for adoption by the tribes, including one on York in 1692. Well, after the British defeated French in Acadia in the 1740s, the territory from the Penobscot River east fell to the province of Nova Scotia and merged together with New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, Fort Sumner. Of course, American and British forces contended for Maine's territory during the War of 1812, and ultimately Maine returned back to U.S. After the War of 1812. In 1819, Massachusetts agreed to permit secession, and Maine separated itself from the state of Massachusetts to become its own state, and Maine became the 23rd state on March 15, 1820, as part of the Missouri Compromise, which geographically restricted the spread of slavery and enabled the statehood of Missouri the following year. And yes, we're going to be visiting Missouri Sunday. This will be kept. Of course, the original state capital was in Portland. But they eventually moved it up to Augusta, and it still remained the capital since. The 20 Maine Volunteer Infantry Regiment was involved during the Civil War. During the Battle of Gettysburg, was actually from Maine, and there have been 4 Navy ships have been named the USS Maine. Most infamously, the one that sunk in the harbor of Havana, which precipitated the Spanish-American War. So that is it for the U.S. Topic about Maine. So let's go over that for a bit. But yes, Maine's actually been quite quiet as a U.S. state. If I were to probably guess, it's probably because Maine has been pretty much stayed out of the way of the other U.S. states. Yeah, look at the coast. This is gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful coastline. Look at the coast. This is absolutely gorgeous. The Maine coastline. Ah, what a beautiful state. Beautiful Maine. What a beautiful area. Look. So, guys, I hope you have some cool plans for this weekend. I hope you guys have some really cool plans this weekend. I bet you guys have some really neat stuff coming up. I know Sunday back doing our we'll be back doing our new we'll be doing our Sunday stream in Missouri. We'll be covering that as we head over to Missouri. So we got some really cool plans coming up here for our Sunday stream. I did watch the Merseyside Derby on Wednesday. Can't believe freaking Liverpool had just had to end the unbeaten streak. God bleeping darn it. Balls. Like, they had missed opportunities to get a goal in that game. Vito choked it. Jota was offside, and a lot of people are not very happy. Yeah. And then tomorrow, guess what? They're going to play the next best team in the Premier League, Arsenal. Oh boy, I'm looking forward to that one. Now it's going to be at 7:30 in the morning. I don't think I can make it to 7:30 in the morning to watch Arsenal. Maybe I have to wake up early. Wake up at 7 for the Arsenal game. What an absolute pain. But at least there's still all the relegation stuff. But man, a win would have been super nice to have. At least Tottenham lost, so there's a chance Saturday to leapfrog them. Be nice to get over Spurs. But I mean, I think Wolves should be Ipswich Town. I'm cheering for a Tottenham loss at Southampton, but I don't think that's going to happen. Southampton's been rubbish this year. Liverpool's going to win again. It's Liverpool. Chelsea Brentford should be interesting. Oh yeah, here's the funny thing about Arsenal too. By the way, for those in chat, I might get stadium tour tickets for Emirates Stadium in London for my trip, because they closed the on-field tours at on-field, so that can't work. Everton's got their whole stadium situation up, and the only two places that could work for tours is either Emirates or Chelsea. So I don't know which one to pick. On one hand, Emirates is more flexible with their times. And then the other hand, Chelsea FC is closer to the station. I don't know which one would be better to visit. But yeah, I would like to see either one of those two. Those two would be really cool places to visit. You have Emirates, one of the largest stadiums in England. Then you have Chelsea Bridge, Stamford Bridge, one of the oldest venues for English football. For Chelsea. I don't know which one to pick though, because they're both really cool to pick. There's that too, so. And then the NHL sort of stuff in sports. The NHL, the Capitals, they clinched a playoff spot. So the Hurricanes clinched it. The Maple Leafs are back in the playoffs. Looks like I don't think we have to wait long for the Lightning to clinch a playoff spot, and maybe even the Panthers. Those two will probably be the next two teams in the postseason. And in the West, the Jets still clinched it. The Stars, Avalanche, and the Golden Knights have clinched a playoff spot. So it's going to be the Kings or Oilers. It's going to be pretty interesting. Take one of those out of playoff spot. Yeah, should be an interesting Stanley Cup. There might be a legitimate chance this year we might get an All-Canada Cup with Toronto versus Winnipeg. That would be all really cool. So we got the 3 Atlantic teams, and then you got the top 3 of the Metro teams. So it looks like the Panthers are going to make the playoffs. Devils. So it's going to be between either the Canadian or the Senators for the last East spot. And then for the West, looks like the Kings and Oilers are going to take the last 2, and then the wild card, St. Louis or Minnesota. Should be interesting to see. Should be interesting NHL Stanley Cup stuff. So we're going to be approaching our next waypoint today, and that is our state capital today. We're going to visit Augusta, Maine, the capital city of Maine. Population of 19,000 people, making it Maine's 12th most populous city, and the 3rd least populous state capital in the country after Montpelier, Vermont, which we already visited on the journey, and Pierre, South Dakota, which we will be visiting. Augusta is the seat and most populous city of its county. This area was explored in 1607 by English settlers from the Potham colony at the mouth of the Kennebec River. Before European settlement, Algonquin-speaking tribes lived in this area, and it was actually known back in the day as Cushnet. Though eventually they changed their name to Augusta in 1827. They had a couple of other names. Augusta is the easternmost state capital in the country, and it's also home to the University of Maine at Augusta. Due to its position on the Kennebec River, downtown Augusta is vulnerable to floods in the spring, including the Great Flood of 1987, which affected the city. There's 5 different residential areas, including the historic neighborhood, West Side and East Side, which is situated outside of the river. It also has its own airport, Augusta State Airport, which serves for both commercial and GA operations here in Augusta. There's a couple of interesting sites of interest here, including the Blaine House, the official residence of the governor of Maine, Fort Western, the former colonial outpost built on the river, the Maine State House, built in 1832, the Maine State Museum, and the Kennebec Arsenal, located in Arsenal Street, Augusta, Maine. That is a little bit about the state capital of Maine, Augusta. We'll be heading there very shortly. We'll be heading there quite shortly. Maine's looking absolutely gorgeous, and wait till it gets fall time. Let's see what it looks like during October or September. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, you can definitely tell Maine looks absolutely gorgeous during the fall season. Yeah, we should definitely use those fall colors when we get to Acadia, because we're going to be flying over Acadia National Park. And then in other sports as well, the NBA looks like the Bulls have clinched their play-in position, so they're not going to have to worry about that. So it looks like we're about to end the season pretty quickly, and then the Thunder have won again. They won their 64th game. The Rockets have won their division. Surprise. I think it won't take much longer for the Nuggets and Lakers to clinch their playoffs. The West has absolutely been great this year. And then tomorrow's going to be Louisville City versus Sacramento at Sacramento. Here we go, guys. Augusta's dead ahead of us is Augusta, Maine. Yeah, I got a Maine t-shirt right now. Look at that. I got a Maine t-shirt. Got on the Princess Cruise thing last time when I was in New England. Got me that. Looks amazing, so I wanted to wear that. Here's Augusta. We'll fly over the state capital briefly, and then we'll head east to Bar Harbor for our first stop. Yeah, usually I do multiple legs, but for today we only got 2. Which I like. 2 legs isn't bad. It looks amazing here. Maine is an absolute gorgeous state. Especially when you visit Bar Harbor. That is probably the most beautiful part of that. And that's why I can't wait when we take the bush planes with us. Soul planes. But here's downtown Augusta. Here's Augusta, which also has photogrammetry. Here's Augusta. There's the state capitol right below. Here it is, state capital of Augusta. We can go western and all that. Is over here. There's the Kennebucket River. Goes through this area. There is Augusta. So we're going to head our way over to now. We're going to head to Bar Harbor. So that would be our next stop. So we're going to head over to the geography of Maine. So Maine's geography is definitely very cool. You see, we all know that Maine is the northeast state, most easternmost state of the contiguous 48. With both its extreme points and its geographic center, easternmost organized settlement in the country is actually located in Lubec, and its Quoddy Head Lighthouse is actually the closest place to both Africa and Europe. Its northernmost point in the state is Escort Station, which is also the northernmost point in New England. Though it's not the northernmost point of the United States. That would be in Alaska, of course. It's also home to New England's largest wholly in New England, Moosehead Lake. The terminus is also home to Mount Catherine, which is part of the Appalachian Trail, which springs to Springer Mountain. And of course, Maine is the least densely populated state east of the Mississippi, which makes complete sense, especially when you consider all the rural area. And of course, it is also known as the Pine Tree State due to its largest distribution of pine trees in the country, mainly Pinus strobus and Pinus fresnoa. In fact, 8% of it is forested or unclaimed, the most forest cover of any U.S. state. So of course, this is an absolute paradise for nature lovers. They will absolutely love this state. In terms of biomes, it's mainly temperate broadleaf and mixed forest, and the land is mainly with mixed oaks, with northeastern coastal forest. And Maine has almost 230 miles of coastline, and its tidal coastline is around 3,500 miles. West, um, of course, its coastline is lined with jagged rocks and cliffs, as well as all of it, and it makes it very well known for its coast. A lot of its geomorphy was created by the last ice age, including the Somme Sound, and most importantly, a lot of the area of Acadia National Park, like Mountain Desert Island. So pretty cool stuff about its geography. We're going to be heading away. Of course, in terms of climate here in Maine, Maine has a humid continental climate with warm and sometimes humid summers and long, cold, and very snowy winters. Winters are especially severe in the northern and western parts of Maine, while the coastal areas are moderated slightly by the Atlantic Ocean, resulting in marginally milder winters and cooler summers than inland regions. You'd be surprised, but Maine has fewer days of thunderstorms than any other state east of the Rockies, with most averaging fewer than 20 days of thunderstorms. Tornadoes are also rare, but though that number might increase. However, the thing you have to be careful about Maine is snow. Snow is not uncommon in this area, so be very warned about it. It can get really cold. Finally, of course, is the flora and fauna, because Maine has quite a diverse range of flora and fauna across its very landscape. All the forest areas mainly have all sorts of coniferous and deciduous trees like basalt fir, sugar maple, and of course the state tree, the eastern white pine. Coastal regions are characterized by hardy sea milkwort, blight, bayberry, and of course, and the invasive Ragusa rose. Its terrestrial fauna includes moose, black bear, and white-tailed deer, along with smaller species like red squirrels, snowshoe hares, and raccoons. In fact, you wouldn't believe this, but Maine has both the largest population of moose and black bears in the contiguous 48. Yes, here in Maine. There's also rich avian diversity with migrating birds like the American oystercatcher, northern harrier, piping plovers, as well as resident blue jays, barred owls, chickadees. Amphibian species include spotted salamanders, wood frogs, and toads. And of course, its marine life is rich too, with puffins, harbor seals, beaked whales, and of course, lobster. In fact, Maine is the largest producer of lobster in the United States, more so than any other U.S. state. It makes pretty obvious sense. This is that coverage here. Guys, I hope you're enjoying this stream and enjoying the aviation knowledge about the place we're going to be going. I hope you're all enjoying this so far. I know there's quite a bit of stuff going on here as well. I hope you're enjoying the knowledge. If you're enjoying this and want to support more of the channel, smash that follow button, and here's the Discord link. There's also our route for today's stream. It's a pretty simple flight plan compared to the previous one. Oh yeah. Also, by the way, its new minor league soccer team is minor league professional soccer team is pretty cool in Portland. I almost forgot. They have probably the coolest name in American soccer. Portland Hearts of Pine. That's a really cool little sports nickname. But it's to reference the fact that Maine is actually the pine tree. Really cool. So we're gonna head up to. So, by the way, I think next week, I think we're going to do some flying in Canada next week. I was thinking about doing some regional ops in Canada, probably. And I think we're going to do some ops in Vancouver. We're going to go from Vancouver International, and we'll do some GA cargo ops to those living in Vancouver Island. We'll fly over from there, fly over briefly to Victoria, and then fly over some bits of Vancouver Island, and fly over to probably Port Hardy or Fort Rupert. Or do some seaplane ops. I think that would be pretty cool. Fly from those in the harbor. And fly to some local communities that they're needed in the local harbor. I think that would be really cool to do. Do some seaplane operation. That would be pretty cool. So I've also been doing more of my personal research as well for France. So I'm now on the region of Nouvelle Aquitaine. So I've been looking at places to visit for each of them. I know because of a wide internet outage, I have a hard time actually getting some of this done. So I hope to get all completed by. So I want to ask you guys in chat. So this week in the community, Tuto Murphy will be back on Friday today. Today he'll be doing a flight in France in the Riviera and the Alps. This should be absolutely gorgeous, and it's from one of our group members, one of our community members of the Tuto Murphy community. Which is really cool. Check out Murph's link. But basically, going to go from Candelrogues near Montpellier, go to Nice Airport, and then go to the Alps, which is absolutely should be an amazing flight because if you guys know me, I love the French Riviera. It is absolutely breathtaking. The French Riviera is an absolutely stunning area to fly. Some amazing coast. And of course, going from there to the Alps. Yeah, um, you can't go wrong. And then Alison Johnson will also be coming back Saturday. I hope she's feeling well enough for Saturday's stream. She will be coming back on Saturday tomorrow. She'll be finishing the other part of the flight that she actually started last week, but going down from Gwadar to Karachi. So here's Alison Johnson's stream. Check her out. Amazing woman. Love her streams. Been a big supporter of her streams for years. Of course, the territory we'll be flying over next is Acadia National Park. Now, I've been to Acadia. Absolutely gorgeous national park. And we will absolutely be visiting Acadia on our national park streams. This time in much more depth. But just a brief thing about Acadia. It includes half of Mountain Desert Island. It's home to the tallest mountain on the Atlantic coast, Cadillac Mountain. It also features a lot of granite domes, glacier erratics, valleys, and cobbled beaches. It features mountains, lakes, streams, wetlands, forests, coastline. Absolutely incredible place to visit. Tons of historic areas. It became a national park in 1919 as Lafayette National Park, and it became Acadia in 1929. And there's tons of amazing activities. You can do the park. You can do car bus touring through Park Loop Road, hiking, bicycling, horseback riding, fishing, rock climbing, kayaking, canoeing, swimming, and more. And that's just in the summertime. Wintertime, skiing, snowshoeing, snowmobiling, and ice fishing. Acadia is one of the more popular national parks. In 2021, it had a record 4 million visitors. So Acadia is a very, very well-known national park, and some of the views from Cadillac Mountain are just. I have pictures of them in my Discord if you guys want to check them out. But I actually have pictures of Acadia. I've been to it. It's one of the few national parks I've actually been to in real life. I believe it's one of the two national parks one of the three I think I've visited in real life. The other ones being Great Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee, and I think the other national park I visited is Everglades. And the other national park I visited is Everglades National Park. I think that's the only ones I've visited national parks. That's it. Those are the only parks I've visited in the United States. Maybe this year we might get a chance to visit Mammoth Cave, which is the closest one to where I live. So I want to visit Mammoth. Because I know that's a really cool national park to visit. Mammoth Cave would be next to my list. And maybe when my family heads west in 27, we get to visit Grand Canyon. And maybe outside of Grand Canyon, maybe hopefully get a chance to visit Zion or Bryce Canyon as well. Because those are also really great parks. Who knows, maybe I could get a road trip and we visit Grand Canyon and hit big 5 Utah parks. Zion, Bryce, Capitol Reef, Candyland, and Arches. Make our way eventually back to Denver or make our way to Salt Lake City for a flight. I mean, really. Let's look outside of the coastline of Maine, and you guys can definitely see what I'm talking about. Why Maine is such a beautiful state in the east. Look at all the coastline stuff, all the little islands in the coast. Absolutely stunning coastline. The only thing I didn't like about the Acadia National Park is I wish we got a chance to get out of the car and actually explore some of this place. I know we went through the park road, but I would have loved to actually come out and explore the park itself. Check out the beaches and coasts and just get out of the car and explore these areas. Maybe next time we'll go there. So we're going to be heading our way over to Bar Harbor, which will be our next stop. Which will be our first stop is Bar Harbor. Bar Harbor, located in Mount Desert, and is a resort town on Mount Desert Island. Population 5,000 people. It's home to the College of the Atlantic, Jackson Laboratory, and NDI Biological Laboratory. However, this is a very popular tourist destination during the summer and fall season. Of course, it's home to some of the large parts of Acadia National Park, including Cadillac Mountain. From the mainland, you can access Bar Harbor from Maine State Route 3. It's accessible by Hancock Bar Harbor Airport via air or by ferry from Warner Harbor, Maine, in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. Bar Harbor has been around since 1763, but it was incorporated in 1796. But this area really grew with fishing, lumbering, shipbuilding. But of course, the 19th century, this area became a playground for the upper class during the Gilded Age, especially with tourism, with lots of artists and famous tourists. At one point, There were about 30 hotels here, including the Miramont Inn. And the rich and famous outdid each other by entertaining in estates, hiring gardeners to design their gardens. And there's a lot of old places still left here. Even Howard Taft played golf here in here as well. Bar Harbor was also used during World War II for naval practice. And of course, many influential people have even called it home for part of the year, including Johnny Rockefeller Jr., J.P. Morgan, Cornelius Vanderbilt, and Roxanne Quimby's also has one too. But Bar Harbor, really cool town. I got a chance to visit here in last year. It's one of my favorite places to visit. I love Bar Harbor. It's a great. Bar Harbor is an absolute favorite of mine. I love Bar Harbor. It's a great. And it's also very popular for tourists. I know they did a tourism, they did cruise ship stuff. They did so in 2022. So yeah, and finally, most importantly, it was also featured in the Fallout 4 game as part of Far Harbor as the post-apocalyptic settlements. And you basically explore around the island and such, which is pretty cool for Bar Harbor. It's a neat place. Of course, in the distance, we will see Acadia National Park in the distance. And if you look ahead of us, you can actually see Cadillac Mountain. You can actually see Cadillac Mountain ahead of us. The highest point on the U.S. East Coast. This place should absolutely come alive during the fall season. It will be absolutely gorgeous. If you ever got a chance to, here's what I think. Acadia looks in fall colors. Oh boy, Acadia in the fall really comes alive during the fall. It is super colorful. It is a super colorful place during the fall. In our first stop of the day of our 2 stops will be here at Hancock County Bar Harbor Airport, just 9 miles northwest of Bar Harbor. It serves the residents of Hancock County with commercial and charter service. During the summermost, it actually becomes one of Maine's busiest airports thanks to private jet operations, bringing visitors to the summer colonies in the county. And it was originally opened as Bar Harbor Naval Auxiliary Air Facility from 1943 to 1945. And Barack Obama once visited this airport in 2010 in a smaller version of Air Force One for his family. Currently, it doesn't have one airline service to Boston out of Cape Air. So that is a bit about this airport. This is absolutely gorgeous. Here's Cadillac Mountain. Now, when we do the National Park Series, we'll actually do a landing up here. So we'll actually go up to Cadillac Mountain. And we'll actually land on top of it, and we'll see what's around the park when we do that. So yeah, we're about nearly done with the first leg, and then we got all of the second leg. We'll wrap it up. Here it is, Acadia National Park. Let's see what Acadia looks like during the fall months. Oh yeah, look at Acadia in the fall. Wow, look at that. This is what Acadia looks like in the fall time, guys. Take a look at this. This is what she looks like in the fall. All those browns and yellows. It looks. But of course, I'm going to put it back to its original monthly. I'll put it back to its original. Yeah, here's Bar Harbor, guys, the historic resort town. Yeah, look at that view, guys. That's look at that for a view. Bar Harbor. Here it is, guys. Bar Harbor Airport will come soon. What a beautiful. Look at this. Let's see. I guess once we land, I'll switch tanks and we'll go to the other tank. Here we go, guys. Our first landing of the day here. Bar Harbor County Airport. And reduce power. Here we go, guys. Our first landing of the day. Here it is, guys. Our first stop here at Bar Harbor Airport. That would be a cool shot. Look at all those hills in the background. Really cool. So we'll stay here for just a little bit as we prepare for the next flight. We'll be heading to Millinocket next for our second and final leg of the stream. So let's go ahead and prepare for our final leg to We're going to switch tanks to the right tank. We're going to head up to 2,000 feet. We're going to head to Bangor now. Head to Bangor next. Oh. We're going to head to Bangor next. So Bangor, Maine is population 31,000. It's in the county seat of Pembusque, Maine, County, Maine. It's the third most populous city in the state behind Portland and Lewiston. It's known as the Queen City of the East. Modern Bangor was established in the mid-19th century with lumber and shipbuilding industries. It gets shipped to, and there's a lot of lumber barons that made their home here. This was a very popular area for the lumber industry, where logs can be flowed downstream from the woods, and processed for the sawmills, and then shipped to Bangor's port to the Atlantic Ocean from any port in the world. And as a result, you can find many lumber barons, pre-revival Victorian mansions, and the 30-foot high statue of Paul Bunyan here in Maine. Today, its economy is mainly based on services and retail, healthcare, and education. It also has its own port of entry at Bangor International Airports. And at one point, Bangor was actually really important as a stopover from the Great Circle Arctic air routes between the U.S. East Coast and Europe. So some interesting stuff about Bangor to bring up to you guys. One of the more interesting things Bangor has is it home to one of the country's oldest fairs, its own state fair for more than 150 years. It's also home to several important architectural buildings, including the Great Thomas Hill Standpipe, St. John's Catholic Church, the Bangor House Hotel, the second oldest garden cemetery in the country, Mount Hope Cemetery, and more. You can also check out Stephen King's house up here too, as well as the battle point of the USS Maine battleship, and more. But Bangor's pretty cool. Tourism's a big deal. And Bangor also has a pretty rich history with pop culture. Because apparently Stephen King's novels actually mention this city many times, and some of his movie adaptations were filmed here, right here in the city. As Stephen King's actually from around Maine himself. Pretty cool city of Bangor. Check that out. We'll fire away to there. So we'll fly over Bangor, and then we'll make our way up to some of the wilderness areas. That's a big part of Maine is wilderness. A lot of people don't know this, but this is a very rural state. The most rural state in the country. We'll check that out once we head. Cool scenery here this morning. Beautiful stuff going on here. Yeah, beautiful mountains and scenery up here today, this part of Maine. We'll fly over Bangor for a bit. And then once we do that, we're going to climb up to 5,000 feet for the next slope. Here's Bangor. Here's Bangor. We're gonna head on up, climb up to 5,000 feet. Hey, Bushpile Jesse and Lyric Goffman, good to see you. I'm doing quite well, my dude. We're flying in Maine today. We just here's our flight plan so far. So sorry about that again. So we started here back in Portland. We started in Portland, Maine. We visited Portland itself, the largest, most populous city in Maine. Then we went up the coast for a little bit around the coast of Maine, back up inland to visit Augusta, the state capital. Then we went east and visited Bar Harbor in Acadia National Park. We stopped here at Bar Harbor Airport, and then we're just passed through Bangor, the third most populous city in Maine. We're actually heading up north and east, fly over some of the wilderness and landscapes of central Maine. We'll make our way over to Millinock Airport. That's what we're doing here today. We're just exploring Maine, exploring this beautiful state. I visited there a while back, last year, 2024. Beautiful states. We visited Bar Harbor, which was an absolutely incredible. In Maine. We had a great time here. Very cool stuff. So we're going to talk about the economy of Maine for a bit. Economically speaking, Maine has a total gross state product of $91 billion in 2023. Its per capita income is 30th in the nation with $63,117. Its unemployment as of 2024 is 3.2%. Its main agriculture include poultry, eggs, dairy product, cattle, wild blueberries, apples, maple syrup, and maple sugar are big parts of Maine's agricultural outputs. Arrowsnook is most known for potatoes, and in commercial fishing still remains a pretty important presence, especially with lobstering and ground fishing. And while lobster is the main seafood for Maine, oysters and seaweed are on the rise, especially with that as well. Its industrial outputs include chiefly paper, lumber, and wood products, but also electronic equipment, leather products, food products, textiles, and biotech. Historically, naval shipbuilding are also important in areas like Bath and Kittery, are important parts of Maine's agriculture. Tourism nowadays is becoming more important in Maine's economy, thanks to its popular destination for the outdoors, hunting, sport fishing, snowmobile, skiing, boating, camping, and hiking. And also, recreation is important with its own creative industry. around the Portland, Maine area. Maine's the top producer of low-bush blueberries of any U.S. state, and its naval presence is still a big deal, even more so than it did before. We're going to be heading our way there. That's about Maine's economy. Maine had a long history of shipbuilding, thanks to the Bath Iron Works and Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. And during the 1819 centuries, Maine was home to many shipyards that produced a lot of wooden sailing ships, and mainly those ships were to transport cargo passengers overseas. They had a lot of shipbuilding history. For example, the Bath Iron Works shipbuilding site, which has built private commercial military vessels. Many of them were from the United States Navy. There were some pretty notable ships built in Bath, including several yachts, including the Aphrodite in 1899, and the presidential yacht RS II. They also produced a lot of destroyers and stuff, including in battleships, including the USS Georgia battleship. They built many destroyers were built in Bath, including the Clemson class destroyers, Wicks class destroyers, the Glees class, many of those were in World War II, and of course the famous Fletcher class destroyers were produced here in Bath. Lots of destroyers and stuff. Some of them are still being used to this day for the U.S. Navy. And then Portsmouth, which was built in Kittery, Maine, which is right next to Portsmouth, they produced a lot of other ships. Most notably, they produced some very famous ships here. Most notably, they produced a lot of submarines. Portsmouth Naval, they produced lots of submarines, the Gato, Palau class, and Tench class submarines, as well as the famous Albacore. So yes, Maine has a rich history of shipbuilding. Some people may not even realize that. Oh, thank you, Jesse. I really enjoy this flight. I'm really enjoying this. Maine's a gorgeous state. I can't wait to visit Maine again later this year. I'm gonna be in Portland, and I have an excursion trip at Kennebunkport, which is a very historic village in the state. Kennebunkport's where we're gonna be heading to. Maine's got a lot of great coastal towns. And it was actually once the summer home of George H.W. Bush. He has a but it's pretty cool though. On Maine, I can't wait to get back to it. Hopefully, we visit here. In the coast. But yeah, that will be part of that trip. By the way, is part of a 10-day cruise, Boston to Quebec, which will be visiting Portland, St. John, New Brunswick, Halifax, Sydney, Sydney, Nova Scotia, Charlottesville, Prince Edward Island. Then it would be Saguenay and then a day in Quebec, and then an overnight stay in Quebec. which would be really exciting though. Get to visit Quebec City. I'm gonna definitely give you some nice pictures. No worries, Jesse. Thank you so much for coming by. For coming to my stream. I really do appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you have a great weekend, as well. I hope you have a great week. So talk a little bit more about Maine. I must talk a little bit about the transportation in the state. So transportation-wise in Maine, Maine, in terms of transportation, in terms of aviation, it receives jet service at the state's two largest airports, one in Portland, which we visited, and Bangor International in Bangor. Both are served by many major airlines to destinations like New York, Atlanta, and Orlando. Essential air service subsides services to many other smaller airports, including Augusta State Airport, Hancock County Airport, Knox County Regional, and Northern Maine Regional at Presque Isle. And they were mainly by regional providers. Many smaller airports, though, are mainly GA, including Eastport Municipal Airport. In terms of highways, I-95 travels through Maine, as well as its eastern branch, I-295, in the spurs of I-195 and I-395 go through here. But most importantly, many U.S. routes come here, most notably U.S. Route 1 and the eastern terminus of U.S. Route 2 start in Maine, which will both start from Maine as well. Yes, Maine definitely has a lot of transportation. In terms of rail service, Amtrak operates a service at Downeaster from Brunswick to Boston's North State. And it does a lot of freight stuff. And finally, shipping is a big deal here thanks to its terminal in Portland. It's a major shipping cargo. So we're about to approach the Appalachian Mountain Club, 100 Wilderness. We're going to be visiting here as well. So we're going to see some beautiful landscapes. Once we cross over to here, we'll then head on up to 6,500 feet because we're going to visit Mount Cafferden, which we can actually see on our right. That's the tallest point in Maine. We'll pay a visit there, then we'll head to Millinock Airport. So we'll take that. Here's what the scenery looks out like here today at 5,000. Yeah, you can see a bit of the mountain scenery in this part of Maine. But if you guys aren't aware of this, Maine is actually where you can find the northernmost terminus of the Appalachian Trail. So we'll be visiting this area again during our Appalachian Trail that we're going to be doing for our trail series. We'll be hitting. Look at the view here. This is gorgeous. Absolutely stunning here in Maine. Beautiful sights. So we're going to be in Missouri on Sunday. We'll fly over St. Louis, Jefferson City, Columbia, and Kansas City. Gonna have to take a different plane for that. So we're just 68 nautical miles out from our final stop here. We're gonna head our way up to definitely see the natural scenery here. This is pretty. Of course, there's Capitan to our right. Absolutely incredible mountain we'll be flying here. Let's go over some bit of other stuff and notes. We have our agriculture of Maine, part of our culture. Agriculture is a big deal. It was actually, even before statehood, it was still one of the major centers for agriculture, especially with the Wabanaki nations forming large crops of corn and other produce in the southern half of the state. Until grain production moved westward, Maine was a center for grain production. However, in the local 2000s, local food movement allowed for locally grown grains to return back. They did its own conference, and eventually grain farming returned back to Maine again, and led to the creation of other businesses like bakeries, and malt houses. Also, there are many vegetable farms and other small diversified farms in the state. And apparently, one of the books, "They Live in the Good Life" by Helen Nearing, by Helen and Scott Nearing, caused a lot of people to move to Maine, young people to move to Maine and engage in farming and homesteading. And these migrants have increased the population of some counties, and Maine's home to the Maine Organic Farmers Gardens Association at over 530 organic farms in 2019. There are also multiple festivals and fairs held here in the state, including the La Kermesse, state of its state's French and Canadian heritage, Freiburg Fair, held in the town of Freiburg, 51, Cumberland Fair, Cumberland, the Union Fair, the Common Ground County Fair, a number of Old Home Day festivals, which are practiced all over New England, and of course a number of Portland food festivals. Portland is a really culinary diverse city. Speaking of its culinary stuff, I gotta talk about the food, because Maine has received national recognition over the last several decades for its food and restaurant scene, most notably in Portland, which was named a Restaurant City of the Year by Bon Appetit magazine. It's also one of the most vegan-friendly states. And Biddeford was actually selected as one of America's next great food cities by Food and Wine in 2022. And food in Maine shares many of the Wabanaki cuisine, including corn, beans, squash, wild blueberries, maple syrup, fish, and seafood. Oh yeah, the Maine Italian sandwich was invented in Portland, which basically is a submarine sandwich here as well. Baked beans are a common dish and served in community suppers. And Maine baked beans are one of the two well-known regional styles, the other one being the ones in Boston. The difference between the Boston and Maine baked beans is that Maine baked beans use thicker-skinned native bean varieties, Marifax, Soldier, and Yellow Line bean. Of course, In terms of sports teams, Maine is mainly minor league sports. For professional teams, they got the minor league. They're all in Portland, including the Maine Celtics of minor league basketball, the Portland Sea Dogs of Double-A minor league baseball, the Maine Mariners play in the ECHL. All three of those were based on minor league teams of the professional team in Boston. And then the newest professional team, Portland Hearts of Pine, out of the USL League One. So far, the second tier of it as well. So it's going to be that as well. They also have some non-professional teams. Collegiately, they have a few collegiate teams. Most notably, the most notable Division One is University of Maine. So that includes some of our information about Maine. So yep, that concludes our final information about Maine. Look at the wilderness. Look to our right, we can see just the vast wilderness. Just look at that for a view. Look at our side door. Just the view. Crazy. We're going to go ahead and turn right here very short. We're going to go ahead and turn right. Let's go ahead and climb up to 500. So let's talk about some interesting fun facts about Maine as we are about to get our way to Mount Capitan. So some interesting state facts. Of course, Mount Capitan is about 5,268 feet above sea level. Maine produces 99% of all the blueberries in the United States. Yes, 99% of all blueberries come from Maine, obviously. Eastport is the easternmost city in the United States, and is considered to be the first place in the country to receive the rays of the morning sun. The White Mountain National Forest covers nearly 800,000 acres of land, and it ranges from hardwood forest to the largest alpine area east of the Rocky Mountains. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was considered the most influential poet of the day. Born in Portland, his most popular works include The Courtship of Miles Standish, Evangeline, and Hiawatha. And finally, Maine contains about 540,000 acres of state and national parks. Most notably, Acadia National Park, in multiple Baxter State Park, and much more. So yes, Maine has a lot of natural. And here is some notable Maine people. Walter Van Tilburg Clark, writer from East Portland. Civil rights reformer Dorothea Dix out of Hampton. John Ford, director from Cape Elizabeth. Of course, the most famous person out of Maine, Stephen King. You all know many of his works. Portland. And the other famous person is Hiram Maxim from Sangerville. And Hiram Maxim produced a lot of products. Maxim was most well known for he invented many devices, including hair curling irons, mousetrap steam pumps. His most famous invention was the automatic machine gun, the Maxim gun, which changed warfare forever. Which forever changed warfare completely. He also experimented with power flight, but they were never successful. He created his own amusement ride, though, that was really successful. But there are tons of famous Mainers. Yeah, oh yeah, people living for Maine are known as Mainers, by the way. Margaret Chase Smith, politician from Skowhegan. Percy Lebron Spencer, inventor from Howland. And Francis and Freeland Stanley, inventors from Kingsfield. So, those are the famous Mainers to talk about. We only got two. We got two more landmarks left to go. We'll make our landing here at Millinocket. Yeah, look at the scenery out here today, man. Absolutely crazy. Very remote, though. This actually makes it pretty ideal for GA operation. So our next waypoint is going to be Mount Capitan. Here it is. Now, of course, we'll be visiting here again at the end of the Appalachian Trail. But Mount Capitan is known as the Great Mountain. It's the highest mountain in the state with 5,269 feet above sea level. Its name means Great Mountain in the Penobscot Native Americans. It's the piece of Baxter State Park. It is a steep, tall, massive formed by granite intrusion weathered to the surface. Its flora and fauna are those typical found in northern New England, while its summit hosts a fragile and dangerous alpine tundra. It has been known for Native Americans for thousands of years. Europeans have known this since 1689. And of course, Capitan is the northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail. A lot of people come to the peak to celebrate the end of their long trails. Fauna here include black bear, deer, and moose, as well in the spring being the black flies and, yes, mosquitoes. Hate though. It also is home to its own subspecies of Arctic butterfly that live in this area and is endangered. Birds include the Bicknell's thrush bird, as well as several songbirds and raptors. And flora includes pine, spruce, fir, hemlock, beech, and pincushion plant. So, pretty cool stuff. Capitan has a lot of really interesting stuff. Yes, it can be seen from New Brunswick, Mount Carlton. Cool. Thank you for that information, Typhon. Only just 104 miles apart. Yes, people have actually flown here. The first recorded climb of this mountain was in 1804 by surveyors Zachary Audley and Charles Turner Jr. He climbed up the peak with two Native American guides. Oh yeah, and Henry David Thoreau even climbed up here. And he actually wrote this during one of his books on the Maine woods. And of course, lots of recreation opportunities. And of course, this is part of the Appalachian Trail, which we will be covering stream for this. So we'll be flying. We'll be marking the entire trail. That is where we're going to be visiting. Here it is, Mount Capitan, highest point in Maine. So we'll be checking that out very shortly. Before turning right, and we'll be getting our way over to Millinocket to wrap up today's stream. I'm going to go ahead and cover Millinocket while we're heading to Capitan. I'm going to go ahead and cover it. So Millinocket is a town located in Penobscot County, Maine, population 4,114. Historically was important for a lot of forest products and recreation, but that factory was closed in 2008. It was settled in 1829, and the word Millinocket comes from the Abenaki word for land of many islands. It was mainly inhabited by the Penobscot people. It was actually settled in 1829 by Betsy and Thomas Fowler and their family, cleared land for a farm near Shad Pond. Soon other families made their way here. David Thoreau even also came here as well when he went through trips to Mount Capitan. One of the big parts about this area, of course, was mainly used for a lot of mills and stuff. Throughout much of the 20th century, the community prospered and developed as a small but successful rural town due to the paper industry as well as Maine's tallest mountain. However, it did decline, afterwards due to the paper mill being shut down. And now it's more for services and tourist attraction, thanks to the fact that a lot of people come here on the Appalachian Trail. So that concludes our last slide of Maine. So I hope you guys like the information for today for this area. Maine's gorgeous. And here it is, Capitan's right in the distance. Yeah, I really enjoyed this time with you guys. I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. Now, of course, for our here we are, Capitan. Oh yeah, by the way, guys, they also revealed the Nintendo Switch 2 that came back. Well, very expensive though, not cheap. Here it is. Capitan. Look at that. Of course, once we head to Mount Capitan, we'll head our way, and I'll go ahead and we're going to descend. Okay, here's Capitan. 2000. Now, if we're doing the Trail Series, we'll probably land at the top to complete the journey. Yep. Yeah, I hope you guys have a great weekend. I think this has been a great stream so far. Um, I really have enjoyed this today. It's been an absolute blast here. We're gonna go ahead on down Millinocket to the last leg of the stream. But yeah, what a cool state to visit, Maine. Can't wait to go back later this year. Really excited. Mount Carlton. Okay, here, get it. Mount Carlton, 2,600 feet. Highest point in New Brunswick. And it's also the highest of all the maritime provinces, apparently, too. Here we go, guys. Millinocket. That will complete our final leg of second and last leg. So, again, this is an absolute gorgeous state. I love Maine, especially the coast and the interior. I'll have to come up with the rest of the trail flight plans. Here's Millinocket. Our airport's actually right there. We can just land 51116 here in Millinocket. Hey, King Cobra 74, good to see you. We're just about reaching the end of our stream. We're in Maine. We had a great time visiting Maine here. We got to check out the beautiful scenery. We started all the way back in Portland. We went up northeast to Bath, West Bath. Then we're gonna go up. We went up to Augusta, flew east to Bar Harbor. Then we went up. Then we landed in Bar Harbor, make our way north through Bangor, and then we went up through the nature lands of Mount Capitan. That's what we did today. Really enjoyed the beautiful scenery in Maine. We'll be back in Maine for our Appalachian Trail. This is actually the eastern terminus of the Appalachian. We're gonna go ahead and turn off the. We're gonna go ahead and prepare for our landing. Going to land. Just gonna let this glide. Yes, because this plane can actually glide here. It's actually some are designed to be as a glide. So here we go. That's it, everyone. And we're gonna go the engine off. And that concludes today's stream, guys. Welcome to Millinocket, beautiful Maine. So, guys, thank you all so much for coming here on this Friday. I really enjoyed this time with you all. I hope to see you all again soon on Sunday as we make our way over to beautiful, beautiful Missouri. So we're gonna say hello to MSFS official for the Community Fly Day. So see you all soon, guys. Take care and have a great start to your weekend. Goodbye, everyone.